How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another FPL video. And today we're going to be doing the Tactics Talk breakdown for Liverpool versus Manchester United, which took place in Game Week 9 at Old Trafford. And Liverpool gave Manchester United the beating of the season, 5-0, 4-0 at halftime. It was an absolute thrashing. We're going to take a look at what went wrong for Manchester United and how they basically played into Liverpool's hands and how Liverpool really didn't get out of second gear. We'll also be taking a look at one of the goals as well, and it just kind of exemplifies everything that has been wrong with Manchester United probably over the last 18 months. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, or haven't done so already. It greatly helps out the channel, as well as turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. Drop us a follow over on Twitter so that you can keep up to date with any and all FPL news, from price changes to injury news and anything in between. And lastly, make sure to give us a follow over on Twitch so that you can see when we go live for our preview and deadline streams. We will be doing a deadline stream as per normal this week on Saturday, 1 hour before the FPL deadline. And we usually leave a pinned comment down below to let you know the details on the next streams as well. So without further ado, let's talk about our partners for this FPL season with Fantasy Football Scout. So if you haven't heard about Fantasy Football Scout, they have a fantastic members area during the regular season. It's £25 for the membership, and that lasts the entire year. And during the off season, they give a 20% discount. But if you have missed that discount, fear not, you can still get the membership for £25, and it's fantastic. You can see the membership area just behind me. You have a bunch of different stats that you can use, powered by Opta stats, and create your own custom tables. You have the Rate My Team tool, you have the season ticker, player comparison tools, a whole array of things that you can use to help elevate your FPL game. So use the link down in the description below so that you can get access to these exclusive tools to help elevate your FPL game. Sign up now. So this is how both teams lined up at Old Trafford on Sunday gone in Game Week 9. Manchester United and Liverpool going with their favorite formation. Solskjaer setting United up in a 4-2-3-1. At least that's what we thought they were going to be setting up as. And Liverpool with their tried and tested 3-4-3, which Klopp had to do some slight adjustments with some of the injuries that he did have. But let's talk about Manchester United for just a second and their lineup. Sticking with the same lineup from the Atalanta game, this was the same team that started in midweek. Shaw, Maguire, Lindelof because Varane is out, Wan-Bissaka, De Gea in goal, Fred and McTominay, or McFred as you'll often hear them kind of noted as now, Bruno Fernandes in the 10, or supposed to be the 10, Rashford and Greenwood as your wide forwards, and Cristiano Ronaldo up front. Pretty standard stuff, no real surprises there. A lot of people thought that maybe Greenwood would be dropped for Sancho, who didn't actually play at all in this game, and that was a bit of a surprise. But I think for the rest of the team, we kind of expected Solskjaer to go with that. With Liverpool, there were some slight changes actually. I don't actually have Alisson's name here, so I'll add that in. But Alisson was in goal. They didn't have Kelleher or any of the other keepers. Robertson and Trent as their fullbacks. But the interesting addition to the team was Konate. He came in alongside Virgil van Dijk. And that was actually a smart move because it allowed them to not only have one big towering fast center back versus Ronaldo, they could have two with Konate, who also played on the right side of the defense where Matip usually plays, and it allows him to catch up with Rashford because he is very, very quick, so he can basically protect the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold. With Jordan Henderson in the 6 due to Fabinho's knock that he sustained and wasn't able to participate in this game, he would play the number 6 role. And then you had Keita as probably the more attacking midfielder and Milner as more of the box-to-box role. A lot of the play was dictated from Jordan Henderson. He made over or attempted at least over 130 passes, which is like 40 more than McTominay and Fred combined, at like a 96% success rate, which is insane. And one of them came from the 5th goal, which was, because it was Jordan Henderson doing it, a lot of people were like, oh yeah, cool, whatever. But if it's De Bruyne or Fernandes or something, a lot of people will say, oh, that was an amazing pass. But Jordan Henderson, he's a decent passer of the ball. And if you give him time and space, any midfielder, at least they should be able to pass with very, very good accuracy. And then their front three was actually another surprise as well. Diego Jota was the inclusion in the starting lineup, with Sadio Mane dropping to the bench and Roberto Firmino maintaining his position in this kind of number 9, false 9 role. And Mo Salah, the man, scoring a hat-trick on the day. 3 goals and an assist fantasy-wise, which was insane. There was actually 3 hat-tricks in total in the Premier League on that same game week, which not often you see 1 hat-trick, let alone 3. So Liverpool, we know what we're going to get out of Klopp's system when we look at it. There's going to be 2 shuttling midfielders. They're going to look to make their way up the pitch. Jota and Salah are going to try to get in inside at times when they can. Allow Trent to go wide, or Trent to play deeper and Salah hold the width. And then have Robertson bomb on forward with Firmino and Jota playing inside like this as well, with Milner giving cover to Robertson and Keita allowing to push up into the box as well. The formation is constantly changing, constantly being very, very fluid in nature. And that kind of shows that United were not prepared for it at all. And the goal that we're actually going to take a look at is the first goal when we get to that as well. But I think the inclusion of Keita was actually very, very good. Keita played versus Atletico Madrid in midweek for their Champions League fixture. He was taken off at halftime, and Klopp said that it was his fault basically. Keita had to be sacrificed, and that was mainly because Diego Simeone's team typically is very, very good at beating a press, almost like a kryptonite to the way Jurgen Klopp's team would play. But the fact that they got a win out of that one in midweek shows the kind of the level that Liverpool's playing at right now. And he said, you know what, Keita, go back in there. I know you can play even better, and against United you're going to be the guy. And it turns out he is the guy. And basically the first 3 goals, he's open for every single one of them, and nobody picks him up. And we'll see how that transpires for the first goal. And basically what Liverpool like to do, as we know, is Trent can either play in this sort of area and swing the ball into dangerous areas from this position, curved ones in towards the back post, or potential, reaching the byline in this position, and then going cutbacks, which actually results in the second goal, basically, where Jota and Milner end up in this position here, where it doesn't matter who's going to get it. They're both there to get it anyway, and there's no United player within like 5 yards of them. Which is interesting to see how a box-to-box midfielder is closer to the goal mouth than our backline, which is very, very interesting. And I say "our" because I am a United fan, so this kind of hurts to say, but Liverpool did play well. They didn't really have to get out of second gear, to be honest, but they were playing so well that it looked effortless. With United, they struggled massively, and it mainly came from these 2 here. And I would also say it also stemmed from the midfield, and it also stemmed from the front 4. I think for the most part, Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka, apart from their pressing and being pulled out of position, weren't necessarily at fault. But I think these 2 got exposed the most because of what these 4 didn't do correctly, or maybe they didn't know what they were supposed to be doing, or maybe it was coached poorly. I think personally it was coached poorly because United haven't been able to press effectively as a unit with Fernandes in the team, no matter who the forward is, on a consistent basis, basically. And the United's press is very simple. If Liverpool has the ball, let's say here with Konate, let's say Firmino drops off, Keita spreads wide, Henderson's showing for the ball. Ronaldo is basically just going to sit here. Fernandes is just going to run at whoever has the ball. Rashford's then going to run at if he passes it to Trent, Rashford's going to run at him. If the ball is passed over to Robertson, Greenwood's going to go to him. If the ball ends up going into one of the midfielders or the forwards, Wan-Bissaka will go to them. Shaw will go to the other one. Fred and McTominay will sit way too far back, basically. And then Maguire and Lindelof will be very, very close by to McTominay and Fred. That's basically what happens pretty much every game United plays for the most part. Anytime the ball goes out wide and a player is showing for it with their back to goal on the touchline, you can bet Shaw and Wan-Bissaka are going to be there trying to press them. But it's so easy to beat them. If you have somebody inside and somebody further down the touchline, you just bypass them, and you also bypass the midfield at the same time. Because what ends up happening is this. Let's say the ball's into Van Dijk, who's back a little bit further. We'll drop him off a little bit. And Ronaldo presses him. Greenwood will stay here. He won't go until Robertson is like receiving the ball. Then Greenwood goes to press by himself. Ronaldo will not come across. McTominay will not go to Milner. Fred will not go to Firmino. That doesn't happen. It's literally one at a time. United do it, which is not how you press, basically. Because then Robertson, because Wan-Bissaka won't press, he'll stay goal side of Jota. If Jota comes for the ball's played in. Wan-Bissaka will then go towards him. If Milner makes this, is already preemptively knowing that Robertson plays it into Jota, how they do it in training, and then Jota's going to spin down the line, and Milner's going to be in space. Well, then you have Firmino running on through McFred. You have Salah coming in around the back post, and then you have 1, 2, 3, and then potentially Jota as well that could make the run after the fact and go through the middle versus 2. That's basically what's going to happen in almost every scenario when Liverpool break, because they move the ball quickly. In basically every move, they have 2 touches max. Most of them are like 1.5 touches. So like one touch pass with a turn or something like that. And that's how Liverpool managed to just dismantle United time and time again. And what was causing this issue is because even if Ronaldo was marking, like let's say the ball was going in towards Henderson. Let's say Konate has the ball. Ronaldo's staying towards Henderson. Fernandes runs across to Konate. Konate plays it into Trent. McTominay and Fred didn't come up far enough, basically, which left Keita or Milner with all this space in here. They have all this space in between the lines. They play it into Keita. Keita has enough time to get his head up before Fred goes to press him, because that's what they've been instructed to do, or at least that's what it seemed like they were supposed to do. The second Keita then gets the ball, Fred will then close him, but this is way too big of a gap for then Keita to look up and say, hey, look, Salah is always going to get the beating of Shaw because he's faster than him, and Maguire's not going to catch him. So if I bang the ball into the channel, Salah's basically in on goal unless Lindelof can come across and cut off the angle. And then, you know, Jota's going to be running, Firmino's going to be trying to look for a cutback. You know, they can have their way basically with the way United want to press, and it's not something that's just happened in this game. You can go back as far as 18 months when United played in the Carabao Cup. Different personnel, same result. Every time City tried to play out from the back, United would, as soon as somebody got the ball that was in their like zone, as it were, they would run towards them. But it was only one person. The other players didn't adjust. They would like kind of mosey on, and they'd be kind of very lackluster and very like kind of just sluggish with their movements. And what would also happen is if the press was beaten, so let's say this ball was played in behind to Salah, and he's making this run here, in on goal, and Maguire's got to come across. Lindelof will come across here, but Fred and McTominay don't get back quick enough, and Milner gets in, or Jota gets in, and then they create a great chance for it. And we'll see that happen on the first goal as well. It also stems from the fact that United's front four doesn't press effectively as a unit. Typically, it's initiated by Fernandes pressing by himself. He gets bypassed by one pass because if you look at Fernandes trying to press Konate, you know, if the ball is with Konate, he can go to Henderson, who can play a one-touch off of, you know, or baiting in Ronaldo to play it to Van Dijk, and then Van Dijk can play it into, you know, whoever he wants from there. If McTominay then presses up, Firmino's then the spare man. If Fred follows him, Keita's the spare man. Or Van Dijk is good enough to rake the ball into this channel here for Salah to run on, because Shaw is going to be kind of tucking close to Maguire, and this channel is just going to be free, because as we know, we've seen plenty of times, the Leipzig game is a prime example. How many times was Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire, and Shaw all like super narrow when Leipzig had the ball in these situations? It happened all the time, basically, and they got burnt for it in the second leg, which ultimately meant that they did not progress into the Champions League knockout stages and had to proceed in the Europa League, which is not something I want to see Ronaldo ever have to do, personally. I want to see him in the Champions League all the time as a United fan. But yeah, that is another problem that United have. Lastly, the other problem that United have is they don't know how to play out from the back. So let's set up that scenario. So we got Maguire, we got Lindelof here, Wan-Bissaka, we got Fred, we got McTominay, we got Bruno Fernandes here. We got Ronaldo. Actually, it's more like Ronaldo here. Fernandes here. Rashford's here, and Greenwood's here. Now, if I'm Liverpool and the ball is with De Gea, who then plays it to Maguire, I know that I never have to worry about these guys. They're not going to be involved in the build-up because United literally only plays down the left-hand side when they play it out from the back. Because De Gea always, like 99.9% of the time, passes it to Maguire, which kind of defaults them to play it left. Another trait that United also have is if Maguire is pressed, let's say, by Firmino, and you go man-to-man like City did in that Carabao Cup game. So Salah goes to Shaw, Jota goes to Lindelof, Keita goes to McTominay, Milner can stay on Fernandes, Robertson can go high up against Wan-Bissaka. The center backs kind of split in this scenario. Henderson marks Ronaldo, and Trent stays on Rashford. The free man is Greenwood, and it's Fred. The only problem is that, well, one, Milner could push up to Fred, Van Dijk could push up to Bruno. Problem is Maguire is a right-footed center back and very rarely plays long raking passes with his left foot, which is another problem which Van Dijk is very good at kind of circumventing. He can play off both feet as well. Same with Laporte's left-footed. So when you play to this left side and you want to be left side dominant and play through Luke Shaw, you can play the ball out from the back efficiently. But let's say Liverpool only start the press basically once the ball goes out to Shaw because they know that this touch line here is basically another man. So what happens in this situation? So we got the defenders like this. Bruno basically plays alongside as a second striker. Robertson will be in this position. So they play the ball to Maguire. Firmino starts the press, and what he does is he actually curves his run like this. He will curve his run rather than going straight to Maguire. Why would going straight to Maguire be bad? Because if he goes straight to Maguire, Maguire shifted to his right foot, he can play it into Fred, and if Fred was a competent midfielder, he could have on the spin, Fernandes can drop off here, receive the ball, and then he can play the ball in behind to Greenwood, or he can look through a through ball for Ronaldo through the middle, and that would be a very quick transition. What often happens is United just default to this left-hand side. So Firmino curves this run. Another thing that we also see is actually this transpires. So if there's two midfielders here, let's say it's their midfield pivot or whatever, they're two free eights. Fred and McTominay, when the ball's being played out to Shaw, if Keita comes across like this, McTominay stays in this shadow here. That's bad. You can't do that because you eliminate yourself as an option. So you're making Keita able to press very, very easily without even having to do anything. So if Salah comes to press in this manner, arcing towards Shaw, with Trent cutting in front of Rashford and Konate covering the channel, if Keita then arcs this way, then as Keita's going like this and Salah's going like this, McTominay gets taken out of the play. Ronaldo can't be played to feet unless it's lifted over Salah, in which case he still has two guys. In proximity. You can try to play the ball down the line to Rashford, but again, Konate and Trent can both cover for that, so it's a 2v1. You can play it back to Maguire, but then you risk Keita cutting the ball out as he comes in. With this arc run in this area here. So you basically just have to lump it long or just play it into Rashford's feet, which he has to come short for, in which case Salah can then curve his run, make it so that you can't go back to Shaw. So now you have the touch line here. Let me remove some of these lines. The ball's played in the Rashford into feet. Trent can press up. You have the touch line here. You have Konate, who can go right here. Henderson is just going to follow Ronaldo. You're going to have Shaw basically being cut out because Salah's coming in and curving his run. So he's blocking McTominay initially. Keita will come back because unless Rashford wants to play it all the way back to Maguire, which Liverpool would more than happily have them do, but Firmino is going to come and cut that pass as well. Then you find yourself in a situation where Firmino gets here, Keita gets here, McTominay's still staying behind Keita because this is what McTominay and Fred literally do in most games unless they drop into the back three, which they very rarely do. You're now looking at a situation where Rashford has nowhere to go. So he has to turn and beat Trent or hope he can hit the ball into space when you have Van Dijk covering that area. or he has to zip the ball in between players into Fernandes. But even still, Konate probably has potentially the foresight to maybe cheat a little bit and then say, yeah, we know that, Ronaldo can run in behind in this space, but we know that Van Dijk's good enough to go across. And Van Dijk will probably be in this position here because he'll be looking at Fernandes as well. And Milner would have probably shifted across in this sort of manner. And United's defensive midfielders often always kind of stay in behind like this line of sight, as it were. A term often used. This line of sight. So if the ball is with Shaw, Fred is line of sighting himself with Milner. Shaw can't pass the ball through Fred unless he plays it over him and Fred runs away from him, basically. The only time they actually look to receive the ball is when they're in this position in here. When they're in the the middle of the pitch, the middle third, as it were. If like Rashford has the ball here, McTominay will try to show for it, or if it's on this side, Fred will try to show, or vice versa, whichever side of the pitch that they're on. Usually it's actually Fred on this side, McTominay on this side. Because Fred's left-footed, McTominay's right-footed, so when playing out from the back, it's a little bit easier. Even though Fred and McTominay are not very good at playing out from the back. What United should be doing in these scenarios is, when Maguire gets the ball, here, if he does play out from the back, Lindelof should shift over, look for a shorter pass. McTominay should drop into the back three. Fred should be looking on a diagonal from either Lindelof, Shaw, or Maguire, so that you can create these triangles of passing to where you can play around players. So unless they go specifically man-to-man, which they can do, and City have done it as well. They did it in that Carabao Cup game, and other teams have done it as well. You can find space. So Firmino starts to do his curve run and press, and Bruno's still up the pitch, and Fred is being blocked off by Keita. Maguire can play the ball across Firmino as long as he's quick. If Jota then tries to press Lindelof, you then have a situation where Milner has to make a decision. He either has to follow Fernandes, or he has to go with McTominay. It's plain and simple, because if McTominay goes into this space and Lindelof, gets the ball, he can play it quickly back to De Gea, who plays it quickly out. You then cut out Jota, you then cut out Firmino, you then force Milner to come in here, you force Keita to come across the pitch. Fernandes can drop off, which pulls Van Dijk, and Ronaldo can make a run in behind. Greenwood can drop short as well, and you can have Fernandes make a run in behind, and then you have a much better situation. McTominay doesn't do that. Fred doesn't do that. Matic does, but he can't play 90 minutes from what I can tell. Van der Beek could probably do that role, but hasn't really given a chance in that system to do it, whether as the most defensive-minded or the one that is basically played throughout the back. He's played a couple of games as the box-to-box midfielder, basically what Fred or McTominay kind of try to do, but don't really do very well. And that's kind of the final point, is that Fred plays in a box-to-box midfield role on the left side of a midfield, like 3 in some cases for Brazil. So he occupies in this sort of zone. And Fred's actually very good the closer he is to their goal, because he can make a tackle and not get carded for it. His tackling and, kind of that hasn't been great recently. But when you have him closer in a much safer position in his mind to their goal, he can make these tackles much more efficiently. He can be very effective at that. Scott McTominay plays for Scotland either in a back 3, where basically he would be mimicking this kind of role, dropping off in the pivot. Matic typically goes in between the 2 centre-backs in here. McTominay can go to the right, and he's very good at raking the ball from side to side when he has time on the ball, which you can do in this position. McTominay's also very good for Scotland when he gets into this position as a right-sided box-to-box player. The problem is that both of these players are being designed to play as number 6 roles in a double midfield pivot. Now, one of these can be a number 8. They can be box-to-box. The problem is that both of them want to do it, and none of them can do the number 6 role by themselves when called upon. And Bruno Fernandes isn't really a 10. He's basically playing as a shadow 9, as it were. Because often you see Bruno, when United's playing out from the back, Bruno's close to the halfway line. Only when he gets frustrated will he drop into these areas here and here. That's the only time he will drop into those areas, which is kind of a problem, because then you have United's front 4 kind of pinning the fullbacks back, yes, but if one of these two do not show for the ball on diagonals to where you can easily play through players or create angles to make passes open for them, rather than just playing it to Maguire, playing it to Shaw, playing it to Rashford, back to Shaw, back to Maguire, back to De Gea. De Gea lumps it long, United lose the ball, which is a very common pattern, actually. Then you can actually create something actually more intricate. United haven't been good at playing out from the back for, like I said, close to 18 months. If it could be longer. And their pressing was not very good versus Liverpool. It was literally looked like a very, very bad version of a zonal press, which is basically, hey, look, Mason, if Robertson comes into this area and receives the ball, run at him. Hey, Rashford, if Trent gets the ball in this area, run at him. The problem is that you need the other player that is next in line, basically, to be already making their way to the player that could receive the ball. That was the issue. Basically, they were always second-guessing. So Liverpool would make the pass, know, hey, look, if we're passing it to that guy, we know he's going to press him, he's going to press him, then he's going to press him, and bang, Keita's open. And we'll take a look at that on the first goal, because that is basically kind of the root of everything that kind of transpired in this 5-0 victory for Liverpool. So this was the setup for the first goal. It's pretty straightforward, because after this, basically, the game was pretty much over. Liverpool had found a very, very quick pattern. This was within 5 minutes, I want to say, where Liverpool were able to just constantly create basically a side on Salah's side and Keita's side of the midfield, where this space here was constantly under threat or open. And if you notice, the first goal scored around this area. The second goal was scored from a cross that came from here, that was ended up finished here. The third goal was scored somewhere around this area too. The fourth goal was scored somewhere in this area. The fifth goal was scored somewhere in this area. You notice the pattern here? They all came from this one side, which is Shaw and Maguire's side, and they looked the worst, basically, and they probably made the worst decisions. I think Maguire mainly made Shaw look a little bit worse than what he actually was in the game. Don't get me wrong, he was not very good, and neither was Maguire, and the majority of the team wasn't very good at all, apart from probably De Gea, to be honest, and maybe Ronaldo, because he did score, but a goal was offside, and he didn't really get the ball, so what can he do? So I think a lot of it came down that right-hand side where Salah was, and as expected, because Salah's just kind of the man in form. So, where was the ball? So the ball gets played from Van Dijk, or it basically comes in towards Robertson. Now what happens? Greenwood was in this position and says, Robertson's in this area, and Wan-Bissaka's, it was initially like this. Greenwood says, oh, Robertson has the ball. Wan-Bissaka and Greenwood both go, all right, I'm going to get goal side, or I'm going to get man side, or I'm going to get the other side of the player, and I'm going to rush towards him. That's not an arrow in the slightest. I'm going to rush towards him. I'm going to rush towards him. Greenwood, by the time Robertson gets the ball, is in this position. Wan-Bissaka is kind of in this position. Robertson kind of swivels with the ball a little bit, and then knocks it, and is about to knock it down the line to Jota. Now, he knows he's going to pass it to Jota, almost certainly, because it's something they can work on. And then Jota, if he drops off, can then play it into Henderson, who's going to be free. Very, very basic when you look at it from the top. What does Lindelof say? Lindelof says, well, Wan-Bissaka's left Jota. If Robertson pings this ball down the line, I'm in a bad way, because I have a bunch of players here that are going to get beat with one pass. A line-breaking pass. A progressive pass, if you will. So he says, I'm going to make the adjustment, and I'm going to move across. Now, what should happen is McTominay should come here. But that doesn't happen. So, Lindelof comes here. Maguire then says, well, Firmino's in a lot of space. I'm going to start to... He starts to like kind of cheat on this side, as it were, to say, I'm going to need to potentially go to Firmino. And at this point, if the ball ever gets to Jota and he plays it, Firmino could be in. And then Salah's always going to have the beating pace of Maguire unless Shaw comes across around the back and stops him. That it's going to be like, you could see already that it's bad, basically. So what happens? Jota drops off, Lindelof follows him, ball gets played into Jota. Maguire sees as the ball's being played into Jota, is still in this position. Jota, one-touch pass, takes out McTominay and Fred, and plays it into Firmino. Now at this point, it's a 2v1 already. it's already a 2v1. Maguire's in no man's land, basically, because of the press that was failed initially by these two, the lack of movement or awareness by these two central midfielders. Fred probably in a slightly better position because he's still cutting off Milner's pass and can still press Henderson if he needs to. McTominay's just marking basically no one. Like, he never, like, when we talked about how if you're on the angle for the pass, so Robertson does very well to get the ball down the line, but if you look, this angle allows them to kind of play it around McTominay if they really wanted to. So unless McTominay was here, he could still be quick enough to cut the ball off here, but he's also kind of safeguarding against Robertson passing it directly into Firmino, which means Maguire can kind of mark Salah. Now, if Robertson dinks the ball in behind Firmino, Maguire should be good enough to go and win the aerial battle versus Firmino. That's how you can stop that attack. It's very, very straightforward. But what happens? So Firmino's got the ball now. Keita sees the space, is starting to make his run. Maguire says, well, I have to go address Firmino for some reason. Even though he can literally just follow Salah for the most part. Shaw can come across, can let's say Keita gets into this position. If Firmino starts driving with the ball, you can basically follow Salah until the last possible moment when Firmino probably has to make a decision in this position here. Yes, the 3v2. He still has to make the pass. He either can shoot, which De Gea could be fairly comfortable with, or he can kind of come across here and then hope he can block off the pass. It's still a bad situation nonetheless. So Keita was around here. Shaw's in this position. Maguire's here. Salah was here. And Firmino received the ball in and around the corner from Jota. So the ball is played in to Firmino. Maguire comes to try to address the ball. Firmino then spins it around into Salah. So Salah comes in here, gets the ball. Shaw is coming across. Keita runs in behind Shaw. Firmino actually ends up continuing his run around Maguire. And now you can see really how bad it is. Because Firmino gets in this position. Salah's here. Shaw's here. And Keita's here. So this is basically, this would be in chess equivalent a forced checkmate. If Keita's on side and Salah plays him in, it's a guaranteed goal no matter what. Assuming Firmino isn't, completely whiffs the ball. Salah can play this through ball into Keita. Keita will always beat Shaw no matter how fast he is. Waits till he gets here. If Shaw tries to run back and tries to cut off the pass, Keita's good enough to make the pass so that if De Gea comes out here, he just plays it straight across and the typical FIFA goal, bang, in the back of the net. But what actually ends up happening is Keita doesn't even need him and he just slots it underneath De Gea anyway. It's such a simple goal. It's just bad defending on United's part. Liverpool, very good passes of the ball. 1-2 touch when playing out. It's very, very simple. It goes to Van Dijk. So Van Dijk receives the ball. Into Robertson is one pass, is a one-touch or like a swivel/one-touch pass into Jota, which is a one-touch pass. So that's 1-2 passes into Firmino, who takes a touch and then plays it through to Salah. Salah takes a touch or two, then plays it into Keita. Keita sets himself and scores. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 passes, the ball's in the back of the net, basically, for the most part. It's a couple small dribbles, couple small like swivels here and there, and it's in the back of the net. There was actually something that was done recently on one of the United fan channels called Stretford Paddock. They had an analyst on there, and she basically said that here's the map. She basically has a machine that can basically develop these maps and whatnot. And one thing that she found out with United is that quite often the passes from United are just extremely bad. And after 6 passes, they still haven't played one the majority of the time through the middle, basically. That like line-breaking pass, that cutting pass when playing up from the back. Liverpool played 6 passes and the ball was in the back of the net. Literally. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, goal. Pretty straightforward. Very, very simple. And it's all because when you press in such a way to where you're not curving your run or cutting off passing lanes while putting pressure on a player at the same time, or you do it one by one, it's very easy to predict. If you say, if I pass it to that guy because he's closest to him, he's going to run to him, then he's going to run to that next guy that he's going to pass to, and so on and so forth. You'll create a scenario every time where you'll always have a spare man, and that spare man for the first 3 goals was Naby Keita, and he played excellently. And the tackle from Paul Pogba, it was definitely a red for me, no questions asked. The game's long over at that point, obviously, but hopefully Keita's fine, because he doesn't deserve to be injured again with the injury woes that he has had at Liverpool, because he was apart from Salah's a hat trick, like that's obviously a given, but I think Keita is the main guy that sets it all up, and to as a comeback from midweek, getting subbed at halftime, definitely showed a man of the match Salah performance on that front. But yeah, that's it for the first goal. The rest of the goals are just basically just calamities in defense for United. Liverpool deserved the win. If United don't pick it up, Son and Kane could do this by themselves as well if they play anything that isn't what they've been playing, basically, and City could pick them apart as well. Atalanta, we've seen, can hit them in space and in transition as well. United really need to pick up their game, because otherwise they're going to get beat and Solskjaer could be out of a job. But let me know what you think down in the comments below for this tactics review. What did I miss out, apart from the other 4 goals, which I seem pretty straightforward? But I think I covered this one a little bit more in detail, just because I know United a little bit more. That's the team I pay attention to the most, because of the team that I follow, and I see more of these details over a longer period of time, whereas you probably wouldn't get that if I was talking about Chelsea or Liverpool. And I think I covered most of the problems, and if you agree, let me know in the comments down below. If you disagree, let me know why in the comments down below. I'm always open to hearing opinions or things that I may have missed, so that we can help improve these Tactics Talks videos as well. And that is gonna do it for this week's Tactics Talk. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you haven't done so already, it greatly helps out the channel. And turn those notification bells on so you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. Drop us a follow over on Twitter so you can keep up to date with any NOFPL news, from press conferences to injury news and anything in between. As well as give us a follow over on Twitch so you can see when we go live for our preview and deadline streams. We will be doing a deadline stream as per normal this week on Saturday, 1 hour before the FPL deadline over on Twitch. There'll be a pinned comment down below to give you the details on that. And lastly, use the link in the description so that you can get access to the Fantasy Football Scout members area. It has a whole array of tools, but the one that I like to use the most is the Opta stats-driven stats tables, which allow you to customize them fully and basically share them with members in the community that have the Fantasy Football Scout membership area access. It's going to help elevate your FPL game. Thank you all for watching, and until the next one, take care.